The city once shined with glass towers and endless lights. Now it was covered in dust, filled with smoke, and silent streets where machines no longer hummed. The humans had lost much after the Great Energy War, a silent war that no one truly won. Factories were broken, jobs were rare, and survival had become a daily fight. Among the ruins of this tired city lived Ethan, a single father. His hands were rough, his back always aching, but he never stopped working. Every morning before sunrise, he left his small apartment, kissed his daughter's forehead, and whispered, "I'll bring something home today." She smiled. Even though she was old enough to understand that her father often came home with nothing but exhaustion. Ethan worked 2 shifts every day, one at the factory where he repaired old robots, and another at a loading dock where machines once did the heavy lifting. Now it was all manual. The world had changed. The energy shortage after the war made technology a rare luxury far above this broken city. In an orbiting station of glass and silver lived Arya Vethra, the CEO of the most powerful alien corporation in the sector, Vethra Industries. Her kind, the Aran, had arrived decades ago, bringing trade, advanced science, and, as humans said, control. They were elegant beings with blue skin that shimmered under light, and eyes that saw deeper than human sight could. Arya was different from most Aran leaders. She didn't see humans as tools or statistics. She had studied them, quietly admired them, their stubbornness, their emotions, their endless effort even when hope was gone. When reports reached her that human laborers were collapsing in her company's factories, she decided to see for herself. But not as a CEO. She disguised herself, covered her glowing skin with dust, hid her identity under workers' clothes, and descended into the human city. That's when she saw Ethan for the first time. He was carrying a heavy crate, his shirt soaked with sweat, his hands trembling from exhaustion. Yet, when another worker stumbled beside him, Ethan dropped everything to help the man stand. He smiled, even though his face showed years of pain. Arya watched silently from behind a stack of boxes. There was something magnetic about the way he kept going, not for glory, not for reward, but for someone waiting at home. His every move seemed like a small act of defiance against the cruel universe. Later that evening, when Ethan finished his shift, Arya followed him through the dim streets. She stayed far behind, watching him walk slowly through narrow alleys, carrying a small bag of food. He passed a group of tired children playing with broken toys. He stopped, smiled, and handed them half of his bread. Arya's chest tightened, a strange feeling she hadn't experienced before. Her kind didn't believe in compassion as humans did. But something in this man's quiet struggle felt powerful, almost sacred. She followed him to a crumbling apartment complex. The lights flickered as he climbed the stairs and unlocked a small metal door. Inside, a little girl ran into his arms, laughing. Her voice echoed in the dark hallway. Arya stood outside, unseen, listening. The sound of the child's laughter felt like music in a world that had forgotten songs. Ethan sat down with his daughter, shared a small meal, and told her stories about stars, brave heroes, and faraway places. His eyes softened when he looked at her. Arya watched from the shadows, unable to move. She wanted to leave, but something made her stay longer. Watching every small moment, for the first time in years. She questioned the reports she read every day about humans being unproductive, primitive, inefficient. What she saw tonight was none of that. It was love. It was survival. It was something even her advanced kind had lost long ago. Suddenly, a distant explosion shook the ground. The lights went out in the entire block. Alarms screamed from the direction of the old energy station. Ethan rushed to the window and saw flames rising in the distance. "Stay here, Lily," he told his daughter. "I'll be back soon." Arya's heart raced. She knew what that explosion meant. It wasn't just an accident. Somewhere deep within the human districts, a resistance was rising again. The fragile peace between humans and the Auran was breaking. Ethan grabbed his jacket and ran out into the smoky street. Arya hesitated for a moment before following him. She couldn't explain why. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was guilt, or maybe something much deeper. As she stepped into the chaos, she whispered to herself, "What have we done?" The night swallowed them both. A tired human father chasing danger to protect others, and an alien CEO hiding in the shadows. Realizing that this war was about to reveal more than anyone expected, and neither of them knew that this meeting, born in dust and fire, would change both their worlds forever. Asterisk smoke still hung in the sky from the explosion the night before. The city was quieter than usual, as if holding its breath. People walked fast, avoiding eye contact, afraid of what might come next. Ethan barely slept. He had spent most of the night helping others near the blast site, pulling debris, checking if anyone was alive. When he finally returned home, his hands were bleeding, and his daughter Lily had fallen asleep waiting for him by the door. The next morning, Ethan went back to the factory. No one dared to take a day off. The supervisor said the company couldn't afford delays. The machines needed repairs, the deliveries had to be made, and anyone who didn't show up would lose their ration card. Arya was already there, disguised as one of the workers. Her skin was covered with a dull dust that hid its glow, her bright blue eyes dimmed behind tinted lenses. She blended in almost perfectly, though her calm, graceful movements still drew quiet stares. She saw Ethan arrive, shoulders heavy, eyes tired but determined. He walked straight to his station, a corner filled with old robotic arms, broken wiring, and endless noise. Arya pretended to sort metal parts nearby, but she kept watching him. Every time he fixed a machine, he did it with careful patience. He didn't curse or complain like others. He just worked quietly, as if every bolt and wire mattered. Around midday, one of the old machines sparked. A flame burst near Ethan's arm. He pulled back quickly, his sleeve catching fire. Without thinking, Arya ran forward, grabbed a nearby cloth, and smothered the flames. "You all right?" she asked softly. Ethan blinked, surprised. "Yeah, thank you." That could have been bad. Their eyes met for a moment, his brown eyes full of fatigue, and her dimmed blue ones, full of something she didn't quite understand yet. She nodded quickly and stepped back. "Be careful next time. These machines don't care about us." He smiled faintly. "No, they don't, but someone has to fix them." That simple sentence stayed in her mind for the rest of the day. Someone has to fix them. It sounded like more than just machines. It sounded like a message about the world itself. As the day ended, workers lined up to collect their small payments, metal tokens they could trade for food. Ethan received fewer tokens than usual. When he asked why, the supervisor said coldly, "Company deductions. Don't ask questions." Arya's jaw tightened. She wanted to reveal who she was, to demand fairness. But she couldn't, not yet. No one would believe her story without proof, and if her identity was exposed, everything would collapse. That evening, she followed Ethan again from a distance. The streets were darker now, patrolled by drones watching for any sign of rebellion. Ethan walked slower than before, limping slightly. When he passed a small market stall, he stopped and looked at some fruit, bright oranges that cost more than his entire day's pay. He sighed and turned away. Arya stepped closer, her hood pulled low. She bought 2 of the oranges quietly and left them on a wooden box near the path he always took home. Minutes later, Ethan passed by again. He stopped when he saw the fruit, looked around, confused, and then smiled faintly. "Guess someone dropped these," he said softly, picking them up. "Lily's going to love this." From the shadows, Arya smiled for the first time in a long time. The next day, word spread that the explosion wasn't an accident. A small group of human rebels had tried to attack one of the Auran energy hubs. The city's tension grew worse. Checkpoints were set up, and soldiers patrolled the factory gates. Ethan kept working. He didn't care for politics or rebellion. He only wanted his daughter to be safe. But when a guard hit a young worker for moving too slow, Ethan stepped forward without thinking. "Hey, stop! He's just a kid," Ethan shouted. The guard turned, ice cold behind his mask. "You want to take his place then?" Before anything worse could happen, Arya stepped between them. "It's fine. I'll handle it," she said calmly, lowering her voice. The guard hesitated, then walked away. Ethan looked at her confused. "You didn't have to do that." "They could have. I couldn't just watch," she said. Her tone was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. Ethan nodded slowly. "Still. Thank you." As they walked away, Arya felt something deep inside her shift. She had spent years signing orders, making policies, and reading reports about human laborers. But none of those numbers showed this. The fear in their eyes, the pain, the small acts of kindness that kept them human. That night, she stood on a rooftop overlooking the sleeping city. The stars above looked distant and cold. She whispered to herself, "We call them primitive. But maybe we are the ones who forgot what living means." Meanwhile, far below, Ethan tucked Lily into bed. She smiled sleepily and said, "Dad, when will things get better?" He paused, his throat tight. "Soon, baby. I promise." As she fell asleep, he looked out the cracked window, unaware that somewhere out there, an alien CEO was watching his life closely, and that her next choice would change everything he thought he knew about the world. The city stayed quiet that night. But in the darkness, two lives were already crossing paths in ways neither could escape. Asterisk morning came quietly, but tension filled the air like invisible smoke. Rumors spread fast across the city. Human workers whispered that the aliens were preparing new control laws, tighter curfews, and fewer rations. People felt the change before it even happened. Ethan arrived at the factory early, as always. The sun barely touched the rooftops. His hands were still bandaged from the small burns, but he didn't complain. He needed this job. Lily needed food. Inside the factory, lights flickered, machines groaned, and workers kept their heads low. Arya stood among them, still in her disguise, gray overalls, dust-covered face, and the small translator device hidden behind her ear. She had spent the night thinking about Ethan and what she had seen. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his tired smile and heard his daughter's laugh echo in her mind. Today she wasn't here just to watch. She wanted to understand. During a short break, she walked toward Ethan's corner. He was fixing an old transport drone, sweat running down his neck. "You really don't stop, do you?" she said softly. Ethan looked up and smiled faintly. "If I stop, things fall apart." He offered her a seat on a metal crate. "You're new here, right? Haven't seen you before last week." Arya hesitated. She needed a name. "Call me Rhea," she said quickly. It sounded close enough to her real one. "Nice to meet you, Rhea," Ethan said. "I'm Ethan. I used to fix machines before the war. Now I fix whatever's left of them." Arya nodded. "You do it well. These machines still work because of you." He laughed quietly. "They pay me half a token for that. Guess that's fair in their books." Her chest tightened again. She knew exactly how much a token was worth. Nothing. It wasn't even enough for a proper meal. And this man still smiled. As they talked, one of the supervisors walked by. His sharp eyes landed on Arya. "You, worker 27A, what unit are you from?" Arya froze. For a second, her alien accent almost slipped through. "I'm from Sector 5, sir," she said quickly. The supervisor stared for a moment, then moved on. Ethan noticed the tension on her face. "Don't worry," he said softly. "You get used to them shouting for no reason." Arya nodded, forcing a smile. But inside, she knew the risk she was taking. If anyone found out that she was Arya Vethra, the alien CEO who owned this entire industrial zone, the consequences would be far worse than shouting later that day. As Ethan lifted heavy crates, his back gave a painful twist. He stumbled and nearly fell. Arya rushed to help him. "You need to rest," she said firmly. "Can't," he replied, breathing hard. "They'll cut my pay." She looked around. No one was watching. She pulled a small metallic capsule from her pocket, a healing patch from her world. She pressed it gently against his shoulder. The device hissed softly, glowing for a few seconds. Ethan blinked. The pain began to fade. What was that?" "Just a patch one found," she said quickly, avoiding his eyes. "Old tech." He didn't question further, only whispered, "Thanks. You're full of surprises, Rhea." That night, the factory lights dimmed early. Power was being rationed again. Ethan walked home through the misty streets, carrying a small bag of rice. Arya followed from a distance, her hood low. When he reached his building, she watched through a cracked window. Lily ran to her father, hugging him tightly. They laughed together, sharing their simple dinner. It was nothing, just rice and water, but they looked happy. Arya's heart softened again. She wanted to step forward, to help them properly, to give them more than scraps. But she couldn't yet. Instead, she made a decision. The next morning, she called a private channel using her wrist communicator, one encrypted line directly to her company's main AI system. "This is Arya Vethra," she said quietly. "Authorize resource shift from Storage Unit 9 to the human zone. Label as maintenance supply." "Confirmed," the system replied in a cold tone. She smiled faintly. It was a small act, illegal by her own company's standards, but it would send food and energy cells to the workers' district without revealing her name. The following evening, Ethan noticed something strange. The factory mess hall suddenly had extra portions. The water filters worked better. Even the heating unit came back online. Workers whispered in disbelief, thinking the management finally cared. Ethan didn't know who was behind it. But when he saw Rhea passing by with a soft smile, he had a feeling she did. Days turned into a week. Arya kept working beside him, pretending to be just another laborer. Every moment taught her something new about humans, their pain, their humor, their quiet strength. And every day, her disguise felt heavier, like a lie she could no longer carry. One night, as she returned to her small rented room, a sudden voice came through her communicator. "CEO Vethra, your personal identity code has been traced in the lower districts. Explain." Her heart stopped. Someone at headquarters had found her. "I was conducting a private inspection," she said calmly. "You are not authorized to. Your orders are unusual, CEO, unauthorized resource transfers. Human favoritism. You are risking the treaty." The line went dead. Arya stood still, breathing fast. Her secret was slipping. Meanwhile, Ethan sat with his daughter, watching her draw stars on an old piece of cardboard. "Someday we'll go up there," she said dreamily. He smiled. "Yeah, maybe someone up there's watching us already." And somewhere, hidden in the same city, Arya whispered to herself, "Yes, little one. Someone is." But she knew that soon, her world and his were going to collide, and when the truth came out, nothing would ever be the same again. The next few days felt strange in the factory. Workers whispered quietly, smiling more than usual. The machines ran smoother, the lights stayed on longer, and no one went home hungry. Ethan noticed that Rhea looked more thoughtful than before. She still worked hard, but her eyes often drifted upward, as if she was watching something far beyond the factory roof. One afternoon, Ethan and Rhea worked side by side repairing a large loading robot. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. Then the alarm siren screamed through the building. Everyone froze. Red lights flashed across the walls. A group of armored alien guards entered the floor, tall, silver-skinned, with glowing weapons and sharp eyes. Their leader shouted, "No one moves! We are searching for an imposter among the workers." The air grew heavy. Ethan looked at Rhea. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. "Rhea, what's happening?" he whispered. Before she could answer, one of the guards scanned the workers with a glowing device. When the scanner passed near Arya, it beeped loudly. "There!" the leader barked. "Identify yourself." Ethan stepped in front of her instinctively. "She's done nothing wrong." The guard shoved him aside roughly. "Silence, human." The scanner glowed brighter. The soldiers raised their weapons. In that moment, Arya knew there was no way to hide anymore. Her disguise flickered, the dust on her skin dissolved, and her true blue aura returned. Her eyes glowed faintly under the flickering factory light. The entire floor gasped. Someone whispered, "That's her. That's the alien CEO." Ethan stared, speechless. His mind couldn't process what he was seeing. The woman who worked beside him, who helped him fix machines, who risked herself for others, was the leader of them all. The guards saluted. "CEO Vethra, you are ordered to return to orbit for immediate questioning." Arya looked at Ethan. His expression wasn't anger, it was confusion. Pain, disbelief. "I didn't mean to lie," she said softly. "I just needed to see the truth with my own eyes." Ethan stepped back, shaking his head slowly. "You're one of them. And you were here this whole time?" She wanted to explain, to tell him everything, why she came, what she saw, what she felt, but the guards grabbed her arms and began pulling her away. "Wait!" Ethan shouted. "She helped us. You can't just take her like this." The guards ignored him. Arya looked over her shoulder, her voice trembling. "Ethan, please take care of your daughter. No matter what happens, don't give up." Then she was gone, taken into the bright transport shuttle that roared into the sky, leaving only smoke and silence behind. That night, Ethan sat by his window, staring at the stars. He couldn't sleep. His thoughts were a storm. He remembered her voice, her kindness, the strange light in her eyes when she looked at him. Was it all an act? Or had she really cared? Days passed. The factory returned to its old, cold routine. The extra food disappeared, the heating stopped again, and the guards became harsher. The small hope everyone felt vanished like dust, but Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. He heard whispers, rumors that the alien government was preparing to remove human workers completely, to replace them with automated drones. That would mean no income, no survival, no future. One evening, while returning home, Ethan found a small metallic disc on his doorstep. It glowed faintly blue. When he touched it, a holographic image appeared. It was Arya. "Ethan," her voice said softly, "I don't have much time. They are questioning me. I tried to defend your people, but they see humans as a burden. The council plans to shut down the city's labor zones within days. You must get everyone out before that happens. I'm sending you coordinates, a hidden shelter in the lower tunnels. Trust no one." The message faded. Ethan stood there, his heart pounding. He didn't know how she sent it, but it meant one thing: she hadn't forgotten him. The next morning, he gathered a few trusted workers and told them everything. Many didn't believe him at first, but when they saw the device, they understood this was real. Together, they started planning. Quietly, secretly, moving supplies and tools to the tunnels at night. They worked fast, but fear followed them everywhere. Meanwhile, far above in the orbiting city of glass, Arya stood before the High Council. Alien officials surrounded her, their faces cold, their eyes filled with judgment. "You broke protocol," one of them said sharply. "You exposed yourself to humans. You interfered with resource distribution. You endangered our order. I helped them survive. Arya replied firmly. They're not slaves. They're people. They feel, they fight, they care more than we do. Her words caused murmurs across the hall. One of the elders glared. You have grown too close to them. You have forgotten your place. Arya straightened. Maybe I have. But maybe it's time we remember what compassion looks like. The council's decision was swift. You are suspended from all authority, Arya Vethra. You will remain under guard until further notice. 2 soldiers stepped forward and took her away. As she walked through the glowing corridor, she whispered, Ethan, please survive this. Down on Earth, Ethan and the workers finally finished preparing the tunnels. Lily held his hand tightly. Dad, will she come back? Ethan looked at the sky, at the same stars where she was being held. I don't know, he said softly. But she tried to save us. That's more than anyone else ever did. Above the clouds, Arya sat alone in a dark cell. Staring at a tiny holographic image she kept hidden, a photo of Ethan and Lily that she had secretly captured days before, her heart ached. Not with regret, but with a quiet promise. She whispered to the cold air, I'm not done yet. And far below, the first signs of rebellion began to rise from the shadows of the human city. The next chapter of their fates was about to begin. The night sky over the city was darker than ever. Thick smoke hung above the rooftops, and drones floated silently like cold stars. On the streets below, the people moved quietly, tired, hungry, and afraid. But beneath the city, in the tunnels, something new was happening. Ethan stood in a wide underground chamber with a group of workers, their faces lit by a small lantern. The air was damp and smelled of metal and dust. They had gathered here secretly for nights now, following the coordinates Arya had sent before she was taken. He held the small holographic disc in his hand. She warned us, he said softly. The aliens are shutting down the city. If we don't move now, we'll lose everything. A young woman named Mara spoke up. You really believe her, Ethan? She's one of them. Ethan looked at her, his voice calm but firm. I saw her with my own eyes. She worked beside us. She risked her life to help us. She's not like the others. The group fell silent. Even the doubters couldn't forget how things had changed when Rhea appeared, how food came back, how machines worked again, how the fear seemed to fade for a short time. Ethan placed the disc on the ground. It projected a faint blue map, tunnels stretching far beneath the city, leading to an old transport route that once connected to a forgotten supply base. This is where we go, he said. There's power, clean water, maybe even shelter. No one spoke for a while. Then an older man stood up. If we're doing this, we'll need guards, supplies, someone to distract the patrols. Ethan nodded. We'll figure it out. We just have to move fast. Meanwhile, far above in the orbiting station, Arya sat in her cell, a room of glowing blue walls, silent except for the hum of the energy field. Her hands rested on her knees, but her mind was racing. She replayed every memory of Earth, the smell of oil and dust in the factory, the sound of Lily's laughter, the way Ethan smiled even when exhausted. She missed it. She missed them. Then, the cell door hissed open. A shadow appeared, tall, slim, and familiar. It was Kale, her personal assistant and one of the few Orin who still trusted her. Arya, he whispered. I shouldn't be here. They're watching me too. Her eyes widened. Kale, you shouldn't risk this. I brought you a way out, he said quickly, sliding a small device across the floor. It will disable the energy field for 30 seconds. After that, you're on your own. Arya stood, disbelief and gratitude mixing in her heart. Why are you helping me? Kale looked at her sadly. Because you believed in something better. And because you're right about them, the humans. They deserve more. She nodded. Thank you, my friend. He turned to leave. Go to the Earth Channel before sunrise. They'll expect a transport ship to collect the remaining supplies. That's your window. When he was gone, Arya activated the device. The blue light around her cell flickered, then vanished. She stepped out quietly, her heart pounding. She moved through the corridors, her footsteps silent on the metallic floor. Every door, every shadow could have been the end, but she didn't stop. Moments later, she slipped into a cargo ship and entered a series of codes. The engines came alive with a soft hum. She looked at the stars outside and whispered, "I'm coming back." Ethan. The ship dropped into the planet's atmosphere like a falling star dark in the tunnels. Ethan and his group were preparing to move. They packed tools, food, and water into small carts. Lily held her father's hand tightly, her big eyes full of fear and hope. "Will we be safe, Dad?" she asked quietly. Ethan smiled weakly. "We'll make it safe." Suddenly, the ground shook. A loud boom echoed through the tunnels. Dust fell from the ceiling. Patrol drones. Someone shouted, "They found us!" Ethan's heart raced. "Everyone go! Move to the east tunnel." Lights flashed above as metal drones hovered into view, firing bright beams. The workers ran, screaming, trying to escape. Ethan stayed behind, helping others climb through narrow passages. He could hear Lily calling his name from ahead. Then, out of nowhere, a beam of light cut through the darkness, not from the drones, but from the sky. It landed near the tunnel entrance with a roar of engines. A small alien ship. The drones turned toward it instantly. But before they could fire, the ship's defenses activated. Blasting them apart in seconds, the ship's door opened. And there she was, Arya, in her silver uniform, her eyes glowing bright with determination. "Ethan, get in!" she shouted. He froze, stunned. "Arya, how? No time. Bring them now." Ethan grabbed Lily's hand and helped the others climb aboard. The ship's cargo hold was small, but they squeezed inside, panting, frightened, but alive. Arya sealed the doors and lifted off before the next wave of drones arrived. The city shrank below them, covered in fire and smoke. Lily stared at Arya, eyes wide. "You're the lady Dad talks about." Arya smiled softly. "You must be Lily. I've wanted to meet you." Ethan looked at her, still trying to understand what was happening. "You escaped. You risked everything." She turned to him, her voice firm but full of emotion. "I couldn't let them destroy you. You showed me what humanity really means, what we lost long ago." He didn't know what to say. For the first time, he saw something in her eyes that wasn't power or authority, it was care. Maybe even love. Below them, the human city burned brighter, and alarms echoed through the orbiting colonies. In that single moment, Arya made her decision. "We're not running," she said. "We're fighting back." Ethan frowned. Fight back? Against an entire empire? Her eyes glowed with determination. "If I started this, I'll end it. And this time, I'm not fighting for the Auran. I'm fighting for you." As the ship vanished into the dark clouds, the first spark of rebellion had already been lit, one that would change two worlds forever. The ship flew low over the burning city. From above, Arya could see the chaos spreading, flames, drones, and frightened people running in every direction. The rebellion had begun, but it was unorganized, wild, and dangerous. Inside the ship, Ethan held Lily close while the other workers stared out through the small window. Silent and tense, Arya gripped the controls tightly, her blue skin glowing in the dim light of the cockpit. "The Council will send more drones soon," she said. "We have only a few minutes before they trace us." Ethan stepped forward. "Where can we go?" "There's an old communication tower outside the city," she replied. "If we can reach it, I can send a message to everyone, human and alien, and show them the truth." Show them what truth? Ethan asked. Arya looked at him. That we can live together. That we don't have to keep repeating this same cruelty. He hesitated, then nodded. Then let's finish this. The ship soared across the ruins until the massive shadow of the old tower appeared, a dark skeleton of metal reaching into the clouds. Arya landed on a flat platform near the top. The air was cold and heavy. They all stepped out, the wind whipping through their clothes. Arya quickly connected her wrist device to the ancient transmitter. Blue light flashed as systems came alive for the first time in years. Ethan and a few workers stood guard near the entrance. Below, the city's skyline glowed red. The hum of approaching ships echoed in the distance. Arya worked fast, typing commands in the alien language. I'm linking the frequencies, she said. Everyone will hear it. The Aran fleets, the human colonies, all of them. Lily tugged at her sleeve. Will they listen? Arya smiled softly. They will if we make them believe. Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the platform. A fleet of Aran drones burst through the clouds, surrounding the tower in a circle of glowing red lights. Ethan shouted, "They found us! Get everyone inside!" Arya yelled back, "I'll hold them off." Before Ethan could stop her, she stepped onto the edge of the platform, raising her arm. A shimmering energy shield formed around her as the drones fired bright plasma bolts. Sparks flew, metal screamed, and the night turned into blinding light. Ethan ran to her side. "You can't do this alone." She looked at him, breathing hard. "I have to. This is my fault. I started this system that broke your people." "Then let me finish it with you," he said firmly. Their eyes met, two souls from different worlds, standing together against everything. He picked up a fallen rifle from one of the drones and started firing. Arya joined him, her energy blasts lighting up the sky. They fought side by side, the roar of battle echoing across the tower. Below them, the workers helped Lily and others take shelter. The city's people began to notice the light in the sky, bright, defiant, impossible to ignore, on the orbiting station. Alien officials watched in disbelief as a live broadcast began to override their systems. Arya's face appeared on every screen. "This is Arya Vethra," her voice said through the speakers. "The humans are not your slaves. They are your equals. We built this empire on their suffering, and I will not let it stand any longer." Every Aran citizen across the colonies heard her words. Some looked away. Others, for the first time, began to think. Back at the tower, the final wave of drones descended. The shield flickered, breaking apart. Arya fell to one knee, exhausted. Ethan grabbed her arm and pulled her behind cover. "Arya, the tower, it's burning!" He shouted. She looked at the transmitter. It was overloaded, sparks flying, but still sending the message. She smiled weakly. "It's enough." They heard it. The last drone aimed straight at them. Ethan moved instinctively, shielding her with his body. But before the shot landed, a blinding beam cut through the sky. A massive ship appeared overhead, not Aran, not human, but a combined vessel, its markings unknown. It fired on the drones, destroying them instantly. A calm voice echoed through Arya's communicator. "This is Commander Kale. I heard your message, Arya. You're not alone anymore." She closed her eyes in relief. "Thank you, Kale." The sky grew quiet again. The drones were gone, and the wind carried only the sound of distant fires. Ethan helped her stand. "You did it." "No," she said softly, looking at him. "We did." He smiled faintly, brushing dust from his jacket. "So what happens now?" She looked at the rising sun over the broken city. "Now we rebuild, not as alien and human, but as people." Lily ran toward them and hugged her father. Then she looked up at Arya. "Are you going home now?" Arya knelt beside her and smiled gently. "Maybe someday. But for now, I think my home is right here. Ethan looked at her, his eyes soft. You sure about that? This place isn't easy. She chuckled quietly. I've seen your kind work double shifts, rebuild machines with bare hands, and still find time to laugh. I'll manage. The three of them stood there for a long moment, a human father, his daughter, and an alien leader watching the sunrise together. For the first time in years, the city looked alive again. People were coming out of hiding. The sound of voices filled the air, voices of hope, of courage, of change. High above in the orbiting colonies, debates began. Old systems cracked, and new ones were born. Arya's message had changed everything. Ethan placed his arm around Lily and looked at Arya. You started a war. And ended it with a promise. Arya smiled. No, I ended it with faith. As the light grew stronger, the camera would fade on their silhouettes, standing together against the new dawn. Because sometimes, it doesn't take armies to change a world. It only takes one tired father. And one alien brave enough to care.